Armed robbery suspect who slipped out of his handcuffs while an officer was out of the room and then jumped out of a second-story window. 19-year-old Jules Jackson was handcuffed to his bed at Kennestone Hospital when the officer who was watching him stepped away for a few minutes. When the officer came back, the window was open and Jackson was nowhere to be found. Ryan Kruger joins us live with the story. He picks it up from here. It is an interesting twist, as this suspect may be suffering from severe drug withdrawals.
Yeah, that's right, Jeff. So Jules Jackson was picked up yesterday for armed robbery, but police quickly realized he had apparently swallowed a dangerous amount of drugs. They took him to the hospital, put him on 24/7 watch, get those narcotics cleaned out of his system. But here's the problem. They have no idea if that actually happened and how that might be impacting him.
The last time anyone saw Jules Jackson, he was making an escape worthy of a Hollywood thriller. Running along the roof of Wellstar Kennestone Hospital in Cobb County a little after 3 o'clock in the morning. Police swarmed the area. Canines were brought to find a scent, but after hours of searching, nothing.
Now that he is out of our direct custody, it is possible that he may be armed.
Jackson was arrested Thursday night for an armed robbery call along with an unnamed accomplice. But Jackson had apparently swallowed a lot of drugs. Police took him to the hospital to make sure he would be okay. And that's when a Cobb County police officer stepped away.
He was handcuffed to the bed. I do not know how he slipped out of the handcuffs. The policy states that they should be with the prisoner or with the suspect. So whether that's in the room or in the immediate area, we typically do have eyes on the suspect.
Aside from trying to find Jackson, police will also start looking into their own. Did the officer slip up when he walked away?
I know that there was a change of shifts from evening watch to morning watch. I don't know if that had a direct factor in the officer walking out of the room or not.
And police are telling me they have received at least one good lead tonight, but unfortunately, we don't have any information about a possible location. We put Jules Jackson's photo on our website along with all of our social media pages. If you see him, you're asked to call 911.